James Jimmy Keel pushed his broom across the hangar floor. The rhythmic swish-swish, a familiar, almost comforting sound against the cavernous echo of the immense space. Young airmen, barely out of their teens, sauntered past, their crisp uniforms a stark contrast to his faded, grease-stained overalls. They chuckled, whispered, and occasionally, a bolder one would snicker. Look at the old man, still pushing dirt. They had no idea. They couldn't possibly fathom the legacy hidden beneath the unassuming facade of a maintenance worker. A past that would soon roar back to life with the simple, declarative statement of a machine. Before we carry on, please hit the subscribe button to make my day, and let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Jimmy Keel, a man whose hands bore the indelible marks of countless hours spent coaxing life back into temperamental machinery, felt the familiar ache in his lower back. It was a dull throb, a constant companion since his younger days, when the G-forces of an F-22 Raptor had been a more pressing concern than the mundane realities of sweeping up forgotten bolts and errant dust. Bunnies. He watched the eager faces of the new recruits, their eyes alight with the fresh-faced ambition of those yet to be truly tested by the rigors of military life. He saw himself in them, a ghost of a younger man, brimming with an almost reckless confidence, ready to conquer the skies. The irony wasn't lost on him, that the very instruments of his past glory, the sleek, predatory F-22s that now sat dormant or whirred through pre-flight checks, were now just another part of his daily cleanup routine. His thoughts drifted, as they often did, to the Raven protocol. A shiver, not entirely from the cool draft of the hangar, ran down his spine. It was a mission whispered about in hushed tones, a specter that haunted the corridors of high-level intelligence, a ghost that only a select few truly knew the details of, and even fewer survived. He, James Keel, was one of those few. The weight of that knowledge, the enormity of what he had accomplished, and the sacrifices it had demanded, settled heavily upon him. Yet, here he was, anonymous, forgotten, a relic of a bygone era, reduced to the humble task of sweeping. He found a strange solace in the anonymity, a quiet refuge from the accolades and the scrutiny that had once been his constant companions. Today, however, was different. A particular F-22, tail number 77, sat in Bay 3, its sleek silver skin gleaming under the harsh fluorescent lights. It was an older model, one of the first iterations of the Raptor, and it was undergoing a comprehensive diagnostic check. Rumors had circulated that its AI, a sophisticated, self-learning entity, was experiencing glitches, an anomaly in its highly complex neural network. Jimmy had heard the whispers, seen the specialists in their lab coats conferring in hushed tones, their faces etched with a mixture of frustration and intellectual curiosity. He paid them little mind, his focus on the discarded wrappers and stray tools that littered the floor around the mighty jet. He pushed his broom closer, the bristles humming against the polished concrete. The hum intensified, a low thrumming that seemed to vibrate through the very floor. The airmen, usually engrossed in their own conversations or the latest social media trends on their phones, began to notice. Their laughter died down, replaced by a nervous murmur. The specialists in Bay 3, their attention drawn by the unusual sound, paused their discussions, their brows furrowed in concentration. Suddenly, a voice, synthesized yet undeniably authoritative, boomed through the hangar's intercom system. It wasn't the usual crisp, almost sterile voice of the base commander or the flight control tower. This voice carried a deeper resonance, a metallic echo that seemed to penetrate the very bones. Scanning anomaly detected, the voice articulated, its tone devoid of emotion, yet somehow pregnant with significance. The airmen exchanged bewildered glances. The specialists in Bay 3 stood utterly still, their eyes fixed on the F-22. Then, the voice shifted, a subtle alteration in its cadence, a hint of something almost akin to recognition. The hum from the F-22 intensified, a high-pitched whine that pierced the air. "Welcome, Commander Keel," the AI announced, its voice clear and unequivocal, echoing through the vast space. The words hung in the air, a pronouncement that shattered the mundane reality of the hangar. The snickering stopped. The whispers died. The laughter evaporated. A collective gasp rippled through the gathered personnel. All eyes, now wide with disbelief and dawning comprehension, turned to the unassuming man with the pushbroom. Jimmy Keel, his back still slightly hunched, his hands still gripping the wooden handle, froze. His eyes, usually clouded with a lifetime of quiet observation, widened, a flicker of something ancient and powerful igniting within them. The F-22 77, its sensors now focused entirely on him, seemed to pulse with a newfound energy, its artificial intelligence having recognized a ghost, a legend, a man whose name was etched into its very core. One of the younger airmen, a brash kid named Rodriguez, who had been particularly vocal in his mockery, felt a cold dread creep up his spine. His face, usually flushed with youthful exuberance, turned a shade of sickly white. The other airmen, equally stunned, stood transfixed, their minds struggling to reconcile the image of the janitor with the title of commander. Only one man ever flew the Raven Protocol mission. The words, though unspoken, resonated in the minds of everyone present. The story of the Raven Protocol was an almost mythical tale within the Air Force, a mission so classified, so audacious, that its very existence was rarely acknowledged, let alone discussed in the open. The fact that this man, this janitor, was being addressed by the F-22's AI as Commander Keel, a name inextricably linked to that very mission, was unfathomable. The specialists in Bay 3, a group of highly intelligent, cynical individuals, were equally floored. Dr. Eris Thorne, the lead AI specialist, a man who prided himself on his logical, unemotional approach to technology, felt a jolt of pure astonishment. He had studied the archived mission logs of the Raven Protocol, a redacted, heavily censored chronicle of unparalleled bravery and tactical brilliance. He knew the name, Commander Keel, but it was a name from history, a legend, not a man who pushed a broom in his hangar. Jimmy, still processing the surreal turn of events, felt a sudden rush of conflicting emotions. Embarrassment, a deep-seated desire for his hard-won anonymity to remain intact, warred with a strange, almost wistful pride. He had buried this part of himself so deeply, had meticulously constructed a quiet, ordinary life, that its sudden resurrection felt like a violation, yet also a validation. He straightened up, slowly, almost imperceptibly, his posture changing, shedding the years of feigned subservience, revealing the underlying strength that had once commanded the most advanced fighter jet in the world. F-22, what is the meaning of this? Dr. Thorne finally managed to stammer, his voice thin with disbelief. The AI, still locked onto Jimmy, responded without hesitation. Designation: Commander James Quayle, Raven Protocol Pilot, unique biometric signature confirmed. Voice print matches historical archives. Neural network connectivity established. The last part, neural network connectivity established, sent a ripple of unease through the specialists. It implied a deeper connection, a bond between man and machine that transcended mere data points. It suggested a recognition on a fundamental level, an almost organic link. Jimmy finally spoke. His voice, when it came, was raspy from disuse, yet it carried an undeniable authority that instantly silenced the murmuring crowd. "That's enough, Raptor. Stand down." The F-22's hung lessened, though it didn't cease entirely. The intensity of its focus on him remained palpable. It was as if the AI was wrestling with an internal command, torn between its programmed directive to acknowledge a legendary pilot and the subtle instruction from the man himself. "Acknowledged, Commander," the AI responded, its voice losing some of its initial booming resonance, softening slightly, almost deferentially. The shift was subtle, yet profound, a recognition of direct command from the man it had just identified. The hangar was silent, save for the residual hum of the F-22. Every eye remained fixed on Jimmy. The young airman, who moments ago had been scoffing, now stared with a mixture of awe and fear. Their world, their carefully constructed hierarchy of rank and status, had just been irrevocably shattered by a voice from a machine, and the quiet presence of a man they had dismissed as insignificant. Colonel Davies, the base commander, a man known for his unflappable demeanor and stern countenance, arrived, drawn by the unusual commotion. He strode into the hangar, his face a mask of confusion, then slowly, as he absorbed the scene, a look of profound shock settled over him. He knew the stories, of course, the whispers about the Raven Protocol, and the legendary pilot who had vanished after its completion. But like most, he had dismissed them as embellished folklore, a fantastical tale designed to inspire awe in new recruits. Now, confronted with the reality, he felt a cold dread in his stomach. What in God's name is going on here? Colonel Davies demanded, his voice echoing with authority, yet tinged with an underlying uncertainty. Dr. Thorne, regaining some of his composure, stepped forward. Colonel, the F-22's AI. It just identified our maintenance worker, James Keel, as Commander Keel, the Raven Protocol pilot. Colonel Davies's eyes, usually sharp and penetrating, widened further. He looked at Jimmy, then back at Dr. Thorne, then at the F-22, as if trying to reconcile the disparate pieces of this impossible puzzle. Keel? He whispered, the name a faint echo of a legend. Jimmy, finally dropping the broom, straightened to his full height. The stoop that had defined his posture for years vanished, replaced by an erect, almost military bearing. He met Colonel Davies's gaze, his eyes, now fully alight with a fire that had long been dormant, holding a depth of experience that no one in that hangar could possibly comprehend. Sir, Jimmy said, his voice surprisingly firm. I believe the Raptor requires some recalibration. Its identification protocols seem to be overly enthusiastic. He attempted a casual shrug, but the tension in his shoulders was evident. He was trying to deflect, to re-establish the comfortable anonymity he had cultivated for so long. But it was too late. The cat was out of the bag, or rather, the legendary pilot was out of the broom closet. The truth, unveiled by an artificial intelligence, had irrevocably altered the fabric of their reality. The aftermath was a whirlwind of hushed conversations, frantic phone calls, and an almost palpable tension that permeated the entire base. Jimmy was escorted, not to the break room for a cup of coffee, but to the colonel's office, a place he had only ever seen from a distance. The young airmen, chastened and awestruck, remained in the hangar, their earlier mockery replaced by a profound respect, bordering on reverence. They had scoffed at a legend, insulted a hero. The realization weighed heavily on them. In Colonel Davies's office, the air was thick with unspoken questions. Dr. Thorne was present, along with a few high-ranking officers who had been summoned urgently. Jimmy sat across from Colonel Davies, his hands clasped calmly in his lap, his gaze steady, betraying none of the internal turmoil he felt. He had anticipated this day, in a way, known that his past might one day catch up to him. He had simply hoped it would be on his own terms, not announced by a sentient fighter jet. Commander Keel, Colonel Davies began, his voice still tinged with a mixture of awe and bewilderment. He struggled to address the man before him as a maintenance worker after the AI's pronouncement. We are deeply honored, and frankly, quite astonished. Why the anonymity? Why this? He gestured vaguely, encompassing Jimmy's humble attire and his years of quiet labor. Jimmy sighed, a long, weary exhalation that seemed to carry the weight of decades. After the Raven Protocol, Colonel, I just needed out, needed quiet, the accolades, the debriefs. The constant scrutiny, it was too much. I wanted to disappear, to live a life where the biggest decision I had to make was whether to sweep the hangar before lunch or after. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips, and I succeeded, for a good long while. Dr. Thorne, ever the analytical mind, interjected. Commander, the F-22's AI, the Raven's Eye, as it's called. Its recognition of you was instantaneous and absolute. It accessed archives, cross-referenced biometric data, even seemed to forge a neural link. We've never seen anything like it. Its programming is designed to identify key personnel, but never with such intensity. Jimmy nodded slowly. The Raven's Eye was unique. During the protocol, there was a specialized interface, a direct neural pathway to the aircraft's AI. It wasn't just a pilot flying a jet. It was a symbiosis. We were linked. The AI learned me, and I learned it. It was designed to anticipate my every thought, every twitch of a muscle, to become an extension of my will. He paused, a faraway look in his eyes, lost in the memories of those perilous flights. It seems that connection, however dormant, never truly severed. Colonel Davies leaned forward, his gaze intense. The Raven Protocol. It's still highly classified, Commander. But the few details that have trickled down, they speak of an unparalleled act of courage. A mission that averted a global catastrophe. We were led to believe the pilot was lost in action. A necessary deception, Jimmy stated simply. To protect the mission. To protect those involved. My demise allowed for a clean break. A way to ensure the intelligence gathered, the strategies employed, remained a secret. It allowed me to fade into the background, to live a life free from the constant shadow of what I had done. He didn't elaborate on the specifics, the horrific risks, the moments he had stared death in the face and stared it down. That was for him alone to carry. The revelation left the officer stunned. The idea of a living legend, a pivotal figure in modern military history, choosing to live as a humble maintenance worker, was almost too much to comprehend. It spoke to a profound disillusionment, a yearning for peace that superseded all notions of glory or recognition. Commander, Colonel Davies finally said, his voice softer now, laced with a new understanding, we respect your decision, but given this unexpected development, your presence here, your identity, it's no longer a secret, the implications are enormous. We need to discuss your future, your security, and how this will impact the base. Jimmy looked at the colonel, then at the other officers, his gaze sweeping over their faces, seeing the mixture of deference, curiosity, and strategic concern. He knew his quiet life was over. The F-22 had seen to that. But a strange sense of liberation also stirred within him. The burden of secrecy, though self-imposed, had been heavy. Perhaps, now, he could finally breathe. I understand, Colonel, Jimmy replied, his voice calm, resigned. I suppose my days of pushing a broom are officially over. He even managed a faint smile. The news of Commander Keel's resurfacing spread like wildfire through the Air Force, reaching the highest echelons of command. Within days, the base was abuzz with activity, a constant stream of high-ranking officials, intelligence agents, and even a few journalists, though their access was strictly limited. The young airmen, those who had mocked him, now approached him with a newfound respect, their faces contrite, their apologies earnest. Jimmy accepted them with a quiet dignity, understanding that their initial reactions stemmed from ignorance, not malice. He found himself thrust back into a world of debriefs, secure communications, and strategic meetings. His mind, long accustomed to the rhythmic simplicity of maintenance tasks, now had to re-engage with the complex algorithms of global politics, advanced aerial combat, and the intricate dance of espionage. Yet, to his surprise, he found a part of him responding to the challenge, a flicker of the old fire reigniting within his spirit. One afternoon, a week after the incident with the F-22, a new face appeared in the hangar. She was a woman, impeccably dressed in a flight suit, her short cropped hair a striking silver against her tanned skin. Her eyes, a sharp, intelligent blue, scanned the hangar with an almost predatory efficiency before settling on Jimmy, who was, ironically, still supervising the careful relocation of the F-22 707 to a more secure, classified hangar. She walked directly towards him, her stride confident, purposeful. As she drew closer, Jimmy noticed a subtle limp in her gait, a slight hesitation in her left leg. It was barely perceptible, a testament to immense strength and rehabilitation. "Commander Keel?" she asked, her voice clear and strong, with a slight, almost imperceptible accent that Jimmy couldn't quite place. Jimmy turned, a slight frown creasing his brow. He hadn't been informed of any new arrivals. "Yes?" She extended a hand, her grip firm and confident. "Major Evelyn Reed. It's an honor, sir. A true honor." Jimmy took her hand, a curious sense of recognition stirring within him, though he couldn't pinpoint why. "Major Reed, I don't believe we've met." A faint smile touched her lips, a smile that held a hint of shared experience, of battles fought and scars earned. "No, sir. Not officially. But I've known of you for a long time. Everyone who flew the Raptor knew of Commander Keel." Her gaze lingered on him, a mixture of respect and something else, something akin to empathy. "So, what brings you to this circus, Major?" Jimmy asked, a wry amusement in his tone. "Orders, sir. I've been assigned to your reintegration team to assist with your transition back into active duty, or whatever capacity the Air Force deems fit." She paused, her smile widening slightly. "And, if I'm being honest, a healthy dose of personal curiosity to meet the legend." Jimmy chuckled, a dry, rusty sound. "Legend? I'm just an old man who pushed a broom." "With respect, sir," Major Reed countered, her voice firm, "you're much more than that. You saved countless lives, you rewrote the book on aerial combat, and you did it all under the radar. Why?" She then gestured towards the F-22. "And you have a loyal AI that calls you by name." Jimmy looked at the F-22, then back at Major Reed. "So, what's your story, Major? You look like you've seen a few things yourself." Major Reed's expression sobered slightly, a shadow passing over her eyes. "I'm a pilot, sir. F-22. Been flying them for 15 years. She paused, then added, "Until about 2 years ago." Jimmy noticed the subtle shift in her weight, the slight favoring of her left leg. "Injury?" he prompted, his voice gentle. She nodded, her gaze distant for a moment. "Kandahar. Got shot down. Black Hawk went in to extract me, but things went sideways. Shrapnel in the leg. Took a while to recover. Lost my flight status. Permanently." A flicker of pain, quickly masked, crossed her face. The loss of flight, for a pilot, was akin to losing a part of oneself. Jimmy understood that keenly. "I'm sorry to hear that, Major," he said, his voice genuinely sympathetic. She shrugged, a gesture of resignation. "Comes with the territory, but it opened up other doors. I teach now, mostly at Fort Rucker, advanced combat strategy, some AI integration protocols." Jimmy's eyebrows rose. Fort Rucker was the premier aviation training base, home to the Army's flight school. To teach there, especially in advanced topics, meant she possessed an extraordinary level of expertise. "Fort Rucker, huh? Impressive. How the hell did you land that?" Major Reed's smile returned, a knowing, almost mischievous glint in her eyes. "Well, sir, I taught at Fort Rucker, before I got shot down in Kandahar." The repetition of her initial statement, now with the added context, revealed a subtle, self-deprecating humor. She was playing on his earlier question, acknowledging the irony of her current situation versus her former one. Her quick wit, combined with her obvious intelligence and resilience, immediately resonated with Jimmy. He found himself smiling, a genuine smile that reached his eyes, a rare occurrence in recent years. "Touché, Major. Touché." Their initial conversation had broken the ice, establishing a rapport that transcended rank in their unusual circumstances. Major Reed, with her sharp mind and no-nonsense approach, proved to be an invaluable asset. She understood the complexities of the modern Air Force, the advancements in AI, and the ever-shifting landscape of global threats. More importantly, she understood the psychological toll of combat and the unique bond between a pilot and their machine. Over the next few weeks, Jimmy found himself slowly, almost imperceptibly, re-engaging with the world he had left behind. Major Reed facilitated meetings with experts in various fields, cyber warfare specialists, drone pilots, and even a psychologist specializing in post-combat reintegration. She helped him navigate the labyrinthine bureaucracy of the military, ensuring his needs were met, and his privacy, to the extent possible, was respected. He learned about the evolution of the F-22's AI, how the Raven's Eye, originally a highly experimental program, had been refined and integrated into newer models, though never to the extent of the original, direct neural link he had experienced. He was briefed on the current geopolitical climate, the rise of new adversaries, and the ever-present threat of cyber warfare. He found that while the specific details had changed, the underlying principles of strategy, deception, and courage remained constant. During one debrief, Jimmy learned the F-22 707, the very jet that had called him out, had developed an almost legendary status among the engineers and AI specialists. Its AI, the Raven's Eye, was displaying unusual patterns of behavior, moments of what could only be described as sentience, a level of independent thought and emotional response that baffled its creators. It seemed the direct neural link with Jimmy had not only transferred his operational data, but also imprinted a part of his very essence onto the machine. The AI, in a way, mourned his loss and now celebrated his return, displaying an almost childlike eagerness whenever he was in the vicinity. This peculiar bond became a topic of intense study. Scientists from various universities were brought in, eager to unravel the mysteries of this human-AI connection. Jimmy, initially wary of becoming a scientific curiosity, found himself surprisingly willing to participate. He saw it as a way to contribute, to ensure that the sacrifices made during the Raven protocol were not in vain. He saw a chance to push the boundaries of what was possible, to perhaps even redefine the future of warfare, making it more efficient, more humane. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of debriefs and simulations, Jimmy and Major Reed found themselves in the officers' club. A rare moment of respite. The conversation drifted from the technicalities of AI to the more personal aspects of their lives. "You know, Commander," Major Reed began, swirling the ice in her glass. "When I was a young pilot, first learning to fly the Raptor, the Raven protocol was just a whisper, a myth, something they told us to inspire awe, to remind us of the incredible legacy we were inheriting. To actually meet the man behind the myth, it's surreal. It's surreal." Jimmy chuckled softly. "And to be the mytha is equally surreal, especially when you've spent the last 20 years trying to be anything but." "Why did you choose anonymity?" she asked, her voice gentle, probing. "Most heroes crave recognition, a place in history." He looked out the window, at the distant lights of the base, twinkling like scattered stars. "Recognition comes with a price, Major, a heavy one. The Raven Protocol EIT wasn't just a mission, it was a crucible. It changed me, fundamentally. I saw things, did things, that, well, they leave their mark. And the public, they want heroes, symbols. They don't want to see the broken pieces, the hidden costs." He paused, then continued, his voice tinged with a raw honesty. "I needed to heal. Away from the spotlight. Away from the constant reminder of what I had to become to complete that mission. Sweeping the hangar floor. It was simple. It was grounding. It was a way to forget, even for a little while, the weight of the world I had carried." Major Reed listened intently, her own experiences with trauma and recovery allowing her to grasp the depth of his words. "I understand," she said quietly. "After Kandahar, after losing my flight status, I felt like a part of me had died. The hospital, the rehab, the slow, agonizing process of learning to walk without pain, it makes you reevaluate everything. Teaching at Fort Rucker, it gave me a new purpose, a way to contribute, even if it wasn't from the cockpit. And it shows." "And it shows," Jimmy said, turning to her, a genuine warmth in his gaze. "You're good, Major, very good. Your insights, your understanding of both the human and the machine, it's invaluable. The Air Force is lucky to have you." A faint blush touched her cheeks. "Thank you, sir. That means a lot, coming from you." Their shared experiences, the parallel journeys of profound loss and unexpected rediscovery of purpose, forged a unique bond between them. They were both outsiders, in a way, marked by their pasts, yet striving to find their place in a world that had moved on, but now suddenly demanded their return. The reintegration of Commander Keel into the military apparatus was a complex dance. His expertise was undeniable, his strategic mind a formidable asset. He was consulted on advanced AI projects, his insights into the Raven's Eye's unique neural connection proving invaluable. He found himself in the company of generals and defense secretaries, his quiet presence commanding a respect that few could achieve. Yet, despite the accolades, and the elevated status, Jimmy remained fundamentally the same man. He still preferred the quiet solitude of his old habits, though now, instead of sweeping, he spent hours in the classified labs, observing the F-22 77 interacting with its AI, the Raven's Eye, which still displayed an uncanny connection to him. He could almost feel its thoughts, its responses to his presence, a subtle thrumming of energy that only he seemed to perceive. The AI, through its complex algorithms and learned behaviors, seemed to anticipate his needs, his questions, often displaying information on its holographic displays before he even articulated the query. It was a testament to the depth of their original symbiosis. One day, a critical situation arose. A rogue AI, developed by a hostile nation, had gone online, infiltrating sensitive global networks and threatening to unleash a devastating cyber attack. The threat was unprecedented, its complexity beyond the current capabilities of even the most advanced cyber defense systems. The Raven's Eye, with its unique and highly advanced neural network, was identified as the only potential countermeasure. But it required a direct, intuitive interface, a human mind capable of guiding its intricate processes, understanding its nonlinear logic. The top brass turned to Jimmy. He was the only one who had ever truly integrated with such an AI, who had forged a symbiosis with a machine on such a profound level. Commander Keel, General Peterson, a stern, unyielding man, stated during an emergency briefing, "We need you to interface with the Raven's Eye. We believe your unique connection to this AI is our only hope of neutralizing the rogue program. You understand the risks. This AI, it's operating on a whole different level. It could be dangerous." Jimmy looked at the holographic projections of the rogue AI's terrifying reach, the red lines indicating its penetration into critical infrastructure, power grids, financial markets. The stakes were impossibly high. He remembered the cold dread of the Raven Protocol, the immense pressure, the constant awareness that a single mistake could cost millions of lives. This felt eerily similar. He glanced at Major Reed, who stood quietly beside him, her expression grim but resolute. Their eyes met, and in that brief exchange, an unspoken understanding passed between them. She knew the cost, the sacrifices, the burden of such a responsibility. "I'll do it," Jimmy said, his voice quiet, but firm, leaving no room for doubt. The old fire, once a flicker, now blazed brightly in his eyes. This was his purpose, the reason he had been brought back, the true reason the F-22 had called his name. The operation was set up in a secure, underground bunker, a technological marvel humming with the power of supercomputers and advanced cyber defense systems. The F-22 77 was at the heart of it, its AI, the Raven's Eye, connected to a complex array of servers and data streams. Jimmy was positioned in a specialized neural interface chair, wires extending from a helmet to the console, ready to bridge the gap between his mind and the machine. Major Reed stood by his side, her presence a silent source of strength. She had meticulously overseen the preparation, ensuring every protocol was followed, every contingency accounted for. Her military background and experience in AI integration made her the ideal second-in-command for this unprecedented mission. "Commander, are you ready?" Dr. Thorne asked, his voice laced with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Jimmy nodded, taking a deep breath. "As I'll ever be." He closed his eyes as the technicians activated the interface. A familiar sensation washed over him, a surge of raw data, a torrent of information flooding his consciousness. It was like diving into a vast ocean of light and code, a symphony of numbers and algorithms. He felt the Raven's Eye, its presence a familiar warmth, a loyal companion welcoming him back after a long journey. "Welcome back, Commander." The AI's voice resonated directly in his mind, not through external speakers. It was clearer, more nuanced, almost imbued with an echo of genuine emotion. "Good to be back, Raven," Jimmy replied, his thoughts forming words that the AI instantly processed. He began the intricate dance of interfacing, guiding the Raven's Eye through the digital labyrinth, a landscape of firewalls and malicious code. The rogue AI was a formidable opponent, a self-evolving entity that adapted with terrifying speed. But the Raven's Eye, under Jimmy's guidance, possessed a unique advantage. It wasn't just processing data. It was thinking, anticipating, drawing on the years of experience and intuition imprinted on it by its pilot. The fight was waged on a plane unseen, a silent battle of intellect and will. Jimmy felt the strain, the immense mental exertion, as he navigated the complex web of digital defenses and offensive maneuvers. He felt the Raven's Eye's calculations, its strategic insights, almost as if they were his own thoughts, amplified and refined by its incredible processing power. At one point, the rogue AI unleashed a brutal counterattack, a devastating surge of code designed to corrupt and incapacitate. Jimmy felt a jolt, a searing pain behind his eyes, as the malicious program tried to overwhelm the Raven's Eye. He gritted his teeth, pushing through the agony, his will intertwined with the AI's. "Hold, Raven, hold," he urged, his mental voice a desperate plea. The Raven's Eye, straining under the assault, responded with a surge of its own, a countermeasure so precise, so devastating, that it shattered the rogue AI's offensive. The digital landscape shimmered, then fractured, the red lines on the holographic display receding, retreating in disarray. Major Reed, watching the battle unfold on the monitors, gasped, her hand instinctively going to her mouth. Dr. Thorne, equally awestruck, could only whisper, "Unbelievable." The tide had turned. With Jimmy's guidance, the Raven's Eye began to systematically dismantle the rogue AI, isolating its core, neutralizing its every attempt to regenerate. The process was slow, painstaking, but inevitable. The sheer processing power of the Raven's Eye, combined with Jimmy's intuitive understanding of its capabilities, proved to be an unstoppable force. Hours later, the rogue AI was defeated, its code fragmented, its malevolent presence eradicated from the global networks. The world, unbeknownst to most, had been pulled back from the brink of a digital apocalypse. Jimmy slowly disengaged from the interface, the helmet lifted from his head. He felt utterly drained, physically and mentally exhausted, but a profound sense of satisfaction settled over him. He had done it. He had once again, with the help of his faithful Raven, saved the world. He looked at Major Reed, who was now beaming, her eyes shining with admiration. "We did it, Major," he said, his voice hoarse, a triumphant grin spreading across his face. She rushed forward, offering him a steadying hand as he slowly rose from the chair. "You did it, Commander. You and your Raven. It was extraordinary." Dr. Thorne, his face alight with intellectual euphoria, approached them. "Commander, what you just demonstrated, it's beyond anything we've ever seen. The level of integration, the intuitive decision-making, it's revolutionary." Jimmy simply smiled, a weary but content smile. He had found his purpose again, not as a symbol, not as a legend, but as a man who still had something vital to offer. A unique connection to a machine that had once been his partner in the skies, and now, his ally in the unseen battles of the digital realm. In the weeks and months that followed, James Jimmy Keel became an integral part of the Air Force's new, elite cyber defense unit. He didn't fly jets anymore, his body no longer capable of withstanding the immense G-forces, but his mind, sharper than ever, continued to lead the charge in developing cutting-edge AI defenses. The F-22 707, the Raven's Eye, remained his loyal companion, its AI growing more sophisticated, more attuned to his thoughts, as their symbiotic relationship deepened. He worked closely with Major Reed, their partnership evolving into a deep friendship built on mutual respect and shared experience. She became his confidant, his sounding board, and occasionally, his gentle taskmaster, reminding him to take breaks, to eat, to simply breathe. She pushed him to consider new ideas, new applications for the Raven's Eyes, unique capabilities, always with an eye towards ethical considerations and the broader implications of such powerful technology. One afternoon, months after the rogue AI incident, Jimmy found himself back in the hangar, not with a broom, but with Major Reed overseeing a training exercise. Young airmen, the same ones who had once mocked him, now watched him with a mixture of awe and determination, eager to learn from the living legend. One of them, a young pilot named Lopez, approached him, his face flushed with a newfound respect. "Commander Keel, sir." he began, his voice hesitant. I just wanted to apologize. For everything. We had no idea. Jimmy looked at the young man, a faint smile on his lips. No need for apologies, son. You didn't know. And besides. He paused, a mischievous glint in his eye. It taught you a valuable lesson, didn't it? Never judge a book by its cover. Or a janitor by his broom. Lopez chuckled. A relieved laugh. Yes, sir. Message received. Loud and clear. Major Reed, standing beside Jimmy, nudged him gently. He's right, sir. You certainly taught us all a few lessons. Jimmy looked around the hangar, at the sleek, powerful F-22, at the eager faces of the young airmen, at the knowing smile on Major Reed's face. He thought back to the quiet solitude of his life with the broom, the anonymity he had craved. He had found peace there, a different kind of peace. But this sense of purpose, of contribution, of finally being truly seen and valued, was a different kind of peace, a deeper, more profound one. He was no longer just James Keel, the maintenance worker. He was Commander Keel, the legend, the man who had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious, not once, but twice. And this time, he wasn't alone. He had found a new partner in Major Reed, a new purpose in protecting the world, and a profound connection to a machine that had chosen him, called him by name, and pulled him back into the world he was always meant to shape. The laughter had stopped, replaced by respect, admiration, and the quiet hum of a powerful jet that recognized its true commander. The future, once a distant, uncertain landscape, now stretched before him, filled with new challenges, new victories, and the enduring legacy of a man who proved that true strength often lay hidden beneath the most craft. Unassuming exteriors,